So we're going to watch IGN's review of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Why, you ask? Well, because apparently there's a lot of controversy with this particular review. But why aren't people happy with this review? I know, I'm very late in checking this out, but f it. Here I am. I'm going to watch it and see why people didn't particularly like this review. Also, if you want to know, I am live right now on Twitch. If you want to hop in, we're playing some Xenoblade Chronicles 3. After this video, hop in, say hello, see what I'm doing in that game and how I'm getting on. But this particular video is something that I've been meaning to watch. So let's watch it together. Also, for context, apparently the original review was taken down. I don't know what the original review had, but it was taken down for some reason. I mean, there must have been a reason for it.
Just feels great to be back with Xenoblade Chronicles' memorable cast of characters, whether it's the lovable meathead Rain or the stoic and inscrutable Duncan.
What? VTech just sent me this saying that this was the original audio that was in the review that was cut out.
Just feels great to be back with Xenoblade Chronicles' memorable cast of characters, whether it's the lovable meathead Rain or the stoic and inscrutable Duncan.
Rain and Duncan. It's Ryan and Dunban, you fucking muppet. They review a game and they still can't get simple things right, like the names of the characters. Like, how difficult is it? Seriously, how difficult is it, IGN? It's not that freaking difficult. So let's go watch this video and see why people don't like this review.
For a story where controlling the future
oh man,
is a
take me back.
Device, it's pretty ironic that
take me
Xenoblade
back.
Chronicles has never managed to get its timing right until now. After this enormous
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? I'm pretty sure Xenoblade Chronicles was successful regardless.
RPG's unfortunate 2012 debut in the final days of the Wii's life cycle and a low-res port to the 3DS that didn't do it justice at long.
Wait, hang on a minute, IGN. The fact that they were able to fit it on the Nintendo DS was pretty goddamn impressive. Okay.
Last, it can shine on a console in its prime, and the result is an improvement as massive as the Titan Bionis itself. And that's before we even get into any of the definitive edition's numerous improvements.
All right.
The most noteworthy upgrade is apparent the second you boot Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition up. It's been given an incredible facelift.
Yeah, like the opening cinematic for the first Xenoblade Chronicles game is still probably one of the most impactful openings of the trilogy. Just seeing the Titans fighting, like my first reactions were like gobsmacked. I was like, wait, what the heck am I watching? So cool.
Finally, Shulk looks like the dorky firebrand we know from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate instead of a blurry piece of concept art. Environments which were already unforgettable.
That's a bit harsh, no? A blurry piece of concept art? Come on now. IGN, there was worse looking games back then.
Gettable in low resolution now take on a whole new life in HD. Some textures haven't been given the same love and are still low res, but it's such a large upgrade over previous versions overall that it's hard to complain about any edges left rough. Even nearly a decade later, the premise of Xenoblade Chronicles and the weirdness of the world it takes place in maintains its charm. After your hometown is attacked by the robotic people-eating Mechon, you and your friends set out on a quest for revenge on an unforgettable odyssey that has you journeying across the Titan corpses that serve as the setting. The world is remarkably weird and unique, and areas are diverse and include dense jungles, creepy swamps, and metal labyrinths, just to name a few. You'll even travel inside a creature's body and fight the monsters inside it, like a twisted episode of the Magic School Bus.
Alright.
Like a lot of JRPGs, the story goes to some really, really weird places that are as confusing as they are preposterous. But it owns its own absurdity so well that it works even when people keep re-explaining the same concept in a dozen different cutscenes.
So I can use this power to change the future.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's like intentionally obscure when it comes to the storytelling. It's meant to be complex because that's what it is. That's what Xenoblade Chronicles stories are. They're meant to be complicated, but eventually make a lot of sense when you get to the end. Like, that's the way, that's the big payoff for these games. So I think that criticism is a bit harsh, and I think it's clearly not fully understood by the person that's reviewing this and that has played this, if they've even played it till the end. So let's keep going.
We'll change what happens. We'll change the future together. We can change our destinies. Change the future.
Okay, just getting clipped, like, this is like typical storytelling that's done very well, like reminding the viewer and the player of the main plot and the direction that the narrative is going. I don't know why it's edited like this, like, oh, it's to just keep saying the same shit over and over again. Like, they don't really. It's just to remind the viewer, because the story is complicated and it's supposed to be complicated, but at the same time, they don't want it to be like Kingdom Hearts where people don't know what's going on and random shit is happening all the time. They want the viewer to understand, and if they have to remind the viewer through some cutscenes now and again of where the direction of the story is going, then that is probably the best way to do it. Yeah, some of these critiques are far too harsh and a bit stupid, to be honest.
Huh. I wonder if they can change the future. The definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles adds an all-new story chapter called Future Connected, which takes place a year after the event.
Wait, we're going straight to the DLC? What sort of review is this?
In the main story. It's great to have more time with Shulk and friends, but the standalone adventure, which can be played entirely separately from the campaign, doesn't really add a whole lot. You spend a lot of time with Millie.
What? What do you mean it doesn't? Good God, this clearly is somebody that played the DLC before finishing the game. Oh my God, I have an aneurysm.
Leah, one of the weaker characters from the main campaign, and
what the fuck? What? Bro did not just say that. One of the weaker characters of the main... I can't stand for this. Melia supremacy. What the fuck, IGN? I'm gonna throw hands. I'm about to throw some hands, dude.
And two new highly irritating Naupon named Kino and Nene.
Look, the Naupon, they can be a bit irritating, and that's fine. But I feel like the Naupon in Xenoblade Chronicles 1 are probably the more tame and likable Naupons, in my opinion. So, wait till you play the second game.
Miss Melly, what's wrong? Is tummy hurty?
The core Xenoblade experience remains intact here, but it's sadly not a major selling point for this remaster. Still, it just feels...
Hold on a minute, dude. Future Connected concludes the story really well and gives you that, what's the word I'm looking for? That, closure. It gives you that closure that you need for the characters and, you know, how their story have ended and where they are and how things are right now. And I think that's really important. Like, the fact that they're mentioning the DLC so early on in the review is so weird to me as well. Like, the DLC shouldn't be included here yet. Like, you're not even finished the main review. So this feels like somebody played the DLC without finishing the main game. That's what this feels like to me.
It's great to be back with Xenoblade Chronicles' memorable cast of characters, whether it's the lovable meathead Ryan or the stoic and inscrutable Dunban.
You still didn't say Dunban? No, this is what you actually said, bro.
To be back with Xenoblade Chronicles' memorable cast of characters, whether it's the lovable meathead Rain or the stoic and inscrutable Duncan.
You can't hide your lies, IGN. You can't hide your mistakes, IGN. The fact that this review is only 6 minutes long as well just goes to show that they put literally no fucking effort into this shit.
Cast of characters, whether it's the lovable meathead Ryan or the stoic and inscrutable Dunban, each one shines even when the wonky writing or grindy stretches of gameplay otherwise bog down the adventure.
Wait, what? The grindy stretch? It's a JRPG, you moron! Of course there's gonna be grinding moments in the game. That's the whole genre! Okay, this review sucks.
Highly irritating Naupon.
I'm going back here because I missed some stuff that he said.
What's wrong? Is tummy hurty?
The core Xenoblade experience remains intact here, but it's sadly not a major selling point for this remaster. Still, it just feels great to be back with Xenoblade Chronicles' memorable cast of characters, whether it's the lovable meathead Ryan or the stoic and inscrutable Dunban. Each one shines even when the wonky writing or grindy
Even with the wonky writing, this person did not finish the game.
stretches of gameplay otherwise bog down the adventure.
It does not bog down the adventure. It actually makes the adventure a lot more like absorbable, if that makes sense, because there's so much happening within the story and you need time to process. So those segments of grinding and leveling up and exploring are key factors of the gameplay to ensure that it's not overbearing or overwhelming on the player. Like the whole purpose of those sections is so the player can debrief themselves from what's happening in the main story and prepare themselves for the next major fight. Good God.
The story is squarely focused on Shulk's quest for revenge and the war against the Mechon, but it also takes the time to reintroduce and develop its supporting characters. There are entire chapters dedicated to fleshing out and resolving their major arcs. Of course, characters can still get on your nerves by literally never shutting the hell up before, during, and after combat.
Dude, that's one of the I'd like to say one of the quirky parts of Xenoblade Chronicles is those like one-liners and stuff that's on repeat. Like it's funny, it's comedic. I think it adds a lot to the gameplay, but you know, whatever.
You'll hear the same tired lines way too often. Thankfully, you can turn combat dialogue off, but it feels
they turned it off. Okay.
It's like maybe there should be a middle ground between no combat dialogue at all and having all the characters scream at you uninterrupted for the 100 plus hours it takes to complete the campaign.
100 plus hours. 100 plus hours. Somebody had a hard time.
Gameplay remains largely the same, though it's been improved in some minor ways. Characters now have health bars, which is awesome, and also kind of crazy that this wasn't a thing already. The map UI has a detailed...
Well, that is something I didn't know. I didn't realize they didn't have health bars in the previous versions. I was unaware of that completely.
Waypoint guiding you towards your objectives instead of a vague arrow, and quest items are marked with a helpful exclamation point so you know which ones you should pick up instead of having to run toward every glowing blue orb. Menus have also been improved a lot. What was once an incomprehensible series of blurry rectangular menus have now been overhauled into a much more modern and functional UI, which is a godsend considering how much time you'll spend in them customizing your character's abilities, upgrading equipment, and changing your outfits. While those improvements are great, this remaster doesn't go far enough elsewhere, opting to maintain a lot of outdated mechanics. The affinity coin and skill tree system, for example, remains an obtuse and bizarre way to buff characters based on social links, soaking up far more attention than it seems worth. I'm all for staying...
I feel like that particular point I do kind of agree with. I do find like those elements of the first game a little bit annoying. I don't think they're the most fleshed out system when it comes to like leveling up and all that stuff. So I do agree with that point. 1 point.
True to the original when it makes sense to do so, but the Wii era RPG design could benefit from more of a refresh.
Good job, everyone.
Combat itself is still just as tactical and addictive as ever. It uses an action-based battle system where your character attacks automatically within range of an enemy, but movement and the more powerful special abilities called arts are controlled by you. Combat can grow a little dull at times due to the fact that the campaign
territorial Rotbart. Oh my good God, the PTSD.
requires a significant amount of grinding, but the fact that it manages to remain at all entertaining with such a long runtime is impressive in its own right. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is the remaster this respected JRPG deserves, even when it feels like it doesn't go far enough in places. The new future-connected story chapter isn't particularly inspired, but the impressive graphical overhaul and welcome quality of life improvements make this the best version of Xenoblade Chronicles we've ever had.
I'm very shocked they gave it an 8. Like, listening to that review, it doesn't sound like an 8. I was expecting at the highest a 6. To be quite honest, with some of the points that he made in this review.
For more, watch our review of the Wii U version of Xenoblade Chronicles, and for other recent RPGs.
No. I think that's enough IGN for one day, to be quite honest. Alright, so that was IGN's review of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I don't really know how to feel after watching that. IGN is a funny place, and it's been let's just say on a rapid decline over the last few years, and they haven't exactly been giving themselves the best reputation in the world, which is funny because back in the day, back in the golden era of IGN, I actually quite enjoyed IGN. It was one of my main sources for news and some reviews and stuff. And they were pretty cool and down to earth, and they genuinely felt like gamers instead of just straight up journalists. But now, these days, it just feels like journalists trying to be gamers and failing miserably, and because they fail and have skill issues, they critique the games accordingly. And this feels very much like that, even though this review was like, what, 4 years ago? 4 years ago. I don't know, dude. Like, some of the critiques in this were just really harsh and didn't make any sense, and a lot of it felt like it came from somebody that didn't have a pleasant experience with playing the game. Which, look, I'll put up my hand. Understandable. These games are not for everybody. It had taken me a long time to like fully appreciate the gameplay, the story, the characters, and the quirkiness that Xenoblade Chronicles has to offer. But I don't think anybody's review should be based on their experiences with the game, especially if it's one that didn't really rub off well to them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a game like this probably should have been played by somebody that has a little bit of experience with JRPGs and understand how they work and like how the storytelling works and all that stuff, because it feels like this was played by somebody that loves playing Call of Duty and FIFA, and they tried playing this game and it had taken them well over 100 hours to beat it, and they've just left a distasteful taste in their mouths, and they just want to rant about it. That's what it feels like watching this review and listening to it. There is some points that I kind of agree with, others that I definitely agree with, but most of it, not so much. Not so much. I know a bit of a random one, but I said I'd react to this one just to give my points on it. And not a big fan of this review, especially what he said about Melia. That was like, what? That definitely not the least interesting character, and she's one of the most important and influential characters in the story, and has a lot of impact on a lot of the characters in the story. So I don't know where that came from. It feels like this person wasn't paying attention, and when they were, they didn't care. That's what it sounds like for me when it comes to the narrative in this game. The person just didn't get it. So yeah, that was my reaction to IGN's review of Xenoblade Chronicles. I am live right now. If you want to go hang out with me over on Twitch, make sure you go there now. Let me know what you think about this video. But in the meantime, look after yourselves. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.